What is going on, guys? Welcome to Bangers and Munch. I'm actually streaming this episode live while recording, so if you do want to get involved in the action behind the scenes before the episode goes out, check out my Twitch channel. It's twitch.tv/Munchables. And I want to make a very quick announcement before we get into the episode. That is that if you're interested in bevies with the boys, that actually has a new channel. So this Munchables channel is where I'll be doing my own personal content, and Bevies with the Boys, the podcast, it'll be live on my Twitch channel, but on YouTube, it'll be over on the Bevies with the Boys YouTube channel, which I'm sure there'll be a link on the screen somewhere, so make sure to check that out if you're interested in the podcast. But without further ado, let's talk about the LPL. Now, we're going into week number 3 of the LPL, and as of today, I'm filming this just after the games on Thursday. So there'll be 3 days in between now and week 3 starting. But of those 3 days, I think the only series that could be categorized as a banger in terms of this video would be LNG versus RNG. So if this comes out before the games on Sunday, check out LNG versus RNG. That one's an honorable mention from week number 2 because LNG currently on a flawless streak, and RNG, they'll be playing their first game. I haven't seen this yet because it'll be in the future for me, but it'll probably have already happened by the time this video goes up on YouTube. But RNG versus OMG will be the first matchup for RNG of the split. I'll be casting that tomorrow. Very excited for that one. But let's talk week 3. So the 3 bangers that I'm going to be talking to you guys about today are going to be WE versus FPX. It's going to be FPX versus RNG, and then it'll be JDG versus EDG. Now, 2 of those matches are going to be on Saturday and Sunday. The first match, though, is going to be on Wednesday, which Wednesday, not usually a day for bangers. If you look at the LPL schedule, generally they'll try and make it so that the great games happen on a weekend. But yeah, Wednesday is going to be one of the best ones in my opinion because WE versus FPX, it's kind of an interesting matchup right now because on the one hand, you've got WE, who currently flawless, right? 3-0. But the opponents that they've been up against, let's be honest, it's not been the toughest crowd, right? Because V5 and TT, I think it goes without saying that WE last split should be beating those teams. So that's really not a big achievement to have 4 games up against those guys. And they beat Suning in week number 1. But the problem there is Suning have looked a bit gash ever since. I'm not going to lie. Suning really not in a good shape right now. And that pains me. I'm sure you all know that breaks my heart to say out loud. But the fact that WE has beaten Suning that look really terrible, and then TT and V5, I want to believe in WE, but we still need to see them beating some better teams. FPX is going to be the first one on the chopping block for that. For anyone that missed out on some of the off-season action, Mole is now on WE, and that's a reason to get excited for this team because if you think back to V5 when they had their massive win streak and everyone got excited for them, a lot of that was through the mid lane, through Mole's play. So really excited for this WE roster with Mole on board, and also Breathe in the top lane. Used to be Curse. I've talked about him a lot in the past. They're going up against FPX. Now, FPX, bit hit or miss so far. Beat Rogue Warriors, big deal. Beat Up, who actually Ultra Prime, it's the new brand for E-Stars. Surprisingly good, actually. I'm pleasantly surprised by how Up have been playing. I actually think that's a team to keep your eye on. I don't think they're going to be top in the table by any stretch, but I do think it's an interesting team, and I do think it's a team that will finish probably middle of the table, and I think that's above a lot of people's expectations coming into the split. But then today, LNG beat FPX. FPX won game 1 pretty handedly. Game number 2... a little bit of spoilers here in case anyone's not seen that series. Go watch that series. Just pause the video. Game number 2, FPX were massively ahead, threw pretty hard at Baron. LNG takes the game. And then game number 3 was pretty tragic from FPX. They basically didn't show up. So, bit of a question mark series there. A lot of question marks around the bottom lane for FPX. Tian as well, especially in game 3, had a really, really rough time. But he also had really good moments in this series. So, FPX for me is a team that there's a lot of questions around the decision making that's going on there. Nuguri looks great, Doomb looks great, but they always do. The other 3 players, there's some stuff to be worked on. So excited for that match because we have 2 teams that I have a huge amount of question marks around going head to head, and we'll see which one can come out on top and which one can show that they're a team that can contest for the top. So the next series, FPX versus RNG. Now, I think this one kind of explains itself. I've just talked about FPX, but this series specifically is obviously a rematch of the finals. Very, very exciting. RNG managed to win that 3-2. And to me, it feels like RNG kind of broke FPX in that final. The bot lane hasn't looked the same since from FPX. So I'm hoping that earlier on in the week, we'll see FPX do well versus WE. And then we'll get to see this series be an absolute banger. Whether or not it will happen is another question. I really hope so, though, because RNG versus FPX, when they're both on form, is an unbelievable series. Cannot wait for that one. RNG, obviously, I think it goes without saying that most of the series that they're going to be playing are series to watch after they won MSI, they won LPL. Technically, right now, they're on the road towards a Grand Slam. If they can win LPL and then win Worlds, it'll be the perfect year, right? Nobody's ever done that. Except SKT maybe did? I'm forgetting now. Not an important conversation for right now in this episode. But RNG, this will be their 4th series. So as I'm speaking on Thursday in week 2, they have yet to play a single game. This is because of quarantine. They'll be out of quarantine tomorrow. Or I think they might be out of quarantine now, but that's minutia. They'll play their first game on Friday, the 18th of June. Then on that Sunday, they play another game against LNG. Then Thursday, they'll play against Rogue Warriors. And then the Saturday that I'm talking about, we have FPX versus RNG. So I'm rambling a bit now, so let's move on to the 3rd series. JDG versus EDG. Now, I think this one somewhat speaks for itself. EDG, obviously the slow, methodical, controlled, dominant team in the LPL right now. I think this is one of the teams that you can very legitimately and very easily get excited about. I think this is a team that looks to be pretty much a shoo-in for the top 4, if not guaranteed at this point. I put them in 5th in my power rankings, and then I amended those power rankings in the Last Hit podcast because there's no way this team is not finishing top 4. They're too insane. JDG, on the other hand, I feel like their title has been taken away from them by EDG. If you think back to 2020, especially spring, JDG were considered like this smart team. They were the brains of the LPL. And it really feels like EDG have taken that identity away from them and made it their own. So JDG, I feel like, have to sort of prove themselves here. Losing out to LNG, it was a 1-2, but LNG are on a hot streak, so maybe that could be a good thing for LNG as opposed to just a negative from JDG. But JDG did 2-0 top esports, so I don't think that the results so far from JDG just discount this team. I do think that they had a rough series against LNG. They still took one game in that series, and I do think that they can bounce back from that. I think they'll be able to improve. They've got a series versus V5, a series versus LGD before this series, so there's time for them to work on any issues that they've got, and I'm hoping that then Sunday, midday in the UK, whatever that means for time zones around the world, I've got a feeling that's going to 3 games, and I've got a feeling they are going to be good games because both Scout and Yagao as well are popping off right now. Both of them have been having amazing games. Feels like the meta is really exciting, both in the bot lane and the mid lane as well. There's a lot of variety and a lot of flexibility there. So I feel like that is going to be a pretty insane matchup between JDG and EDG. So that is going to round us out. Please do click on the like and subscribe and all that good stuff if you're watching on YouTube. But also, let me know in the comments what kind of content you would like to see. Now, I'm planning on doing a video that's kind of a catch-up on the LPL of like who the teams are that you should be excited about this split and maybe some of the narratives there. And, for example, LNG top in the table right now. Who are LNG? I think a lot of casual LPL fans would be asking. So just going through the standings and explaining some of who the teams are and why you should be excited for LPL and who to follow in the LPL. But if there are any other video ideas you'd like to see from me, please do let me know in the comments. And I'll have a read through and I'll have a conversation with you guys in the comments. But with that said, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys in Champ Select.